So, so Radhe Radhe everyone, it's 9 o'clock, so I think we can get started. We are on time. Radhe Radhe, good morning, good evening everyone. A very warm welcome to today's edition of Daily Wisdom. Hope you had a wonderful day or having a great start to your Tuesday. So let's get started by invoking the blessings of God and Guru like we always do. Radhe Radhe Shamji, good to see you. I can see your aura like Vivekanand's aura is coming, all the way from behind. Okay, so we'll get started with our opening prayers. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Okay, Radhe Radhe again to all of you. So let's get started. We'll start with our soul soup segment before we get into the shloka, where we're talking about the topic of surrender. So we are going to continue on the series of success, happiness, and fulfillment. And as part of it, we are discussing what is success in life. We started off by looking at the various definitions because it's a little contextual, not contextual, subjective, and different definitions. But then we zeroed in on a very all-encompassing definition where we said we need to be good, do good, and feel good. That is really true success. If we have everything in life and if we don't have peace of mind, we don't feel happy what we are doing, we don't have a sense of fulfillment, then what's the point? You cannot term it as success, even though if we simply employ material yardsticks to it and look at it from people's eye, they may say it is a successful life just by being famous, powerful, or rich. It doesn't work that way. So in that series, we spoke about being good, doing good, and today we are going to talk about experience. Yes, as well. Okay, so let's continue on the series. So isn't it fact? So a successful life requires satisfaction on 3 points. What are those 3 points? One is to become the best we can be. There's always an inherent, feeling that I have not yet achieved what I am capable of achieving. There's something more I can do. That feeling is always there because until we realize our full potential and our full potential purely in terms of spirituality, if we think about it, okay, there's one potential we can think from a material standpoint that is also infinite, by the way. We can achieve anything that we put our minds to. But from a spiritual standpoint, our true potential is to actually realize God or become like God. So until we reach that stage, there will be that sense of dissatisfaction. You know what? There's something more I can do. It's called living on 99. That one thing if I have, or one thing I could do, that life would be complete. That is a sense of fulfillment. And do the best that we can in the work we undertake. We spoke about that. It's not just about money. Look, going through that story of the woodcutter, even if you give him more money, then unless the person is able to see the chips fly is analogous to we being able to see our work contributing towards something meaningful. Until we see that, we'll not have a sense of fulfillment as well. So money is just one part of the equation, not the key thing. Now today we're going to talk about experience happiness and satisfaction in life. Now this craving for happiness is very natural to us. Nobody has taught us, right? Everybody yearns for to be happy. And what happens is we end up chasing an intermediate goal. Intermediate goal, why I'm saying it, it's an intermediate goal because let's say one yearns for a good job. or let's say a good or a beautiful spouse, or maybe desiring something, a palatial home or a house or something like that. They may have different desires, but they are just a means to a goal. These are just the means. They are not going to give you, but the goal, the inherent or the underlying goal is happiness. All of us are seeking that, regardless of which nationality, creed, caste, religion, tradition we belong to. All of us as humans are seeking happiness. That is a common denominator amongst all of us. Isn't it amazing? Although we have different biometrics, different propensities, everything is different, and still we yearn for the same thing, happiness. Nobody in the world can claim I'm not seeking happiness, right? And we spoke about this multiple times. Even, that starts from when we are born. We declare to the world that I am here for seeking happiness. Nobody has taught us, but we do that, declare it to the world by crying. Crying is also a way to reduce the pain that you have experienced at the time of birth. And the scriptures tell us it is very natural. It is a divine law. You have no option but to seek happiness. Why? Because we are part of the perfect happiness, ocean of bliss, which is God Himself. So in that sense, you will keep on seeking happiness. You don't have a choice. Now, which direction would you seek is something that would determine the trajectory of success or fulfillment that you would achieve or not, when it comes to seeking happiness or not. Now, every part is attracted to its source, and similarly so are we. Our source is the ocean of bliss itself. If you look at something that comes from soil goes back to the soil, something that comes from water comes back to the water through that evaporation condensation cycle that happens. And then this natural urge to feel good or to seek bliss is something, because we are part of that perfect bliss and we are seeking the whole. So there is it's pretty natural for us in that sense. So in that sense, even the Bible states in, I think, Matthew 15:8, it says 5:8, it says that blessed are. Now the key secret, before I go get into that, the key secret of happiness that we miss out on is that it is directly related to the quality or the purity of our mind. So when I came across this principle, and Swamiji was explaining, I was really thinking, really? So if my mind is pure, will I be more happy in life? And if somebody is highly dissatisfied in life, that means they need to work on their mind and nothing else. It is a very profound principle, but this is a divine principle. So if I were to plot this graph between happiness and pure mind, this is how the trajectory would look like. Which way? It would go this way, right? The purer the mind, the happier you will feel. So the buck stops at you. Even the Bible says, blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. So purity of heart is directly proportional to the happiness that you experience in life. People who are purer, look at kids. Do they need anything to be happy? They're just happy. They can create something out of nothing. To the other day, my little one was playing with some, what do you call that? I don't know what he was trying to do. All by himself, he was creating out something out of nothing and having fun. But as adults, we complicate our lives. And because we add a lot of impressions of people, things around, and as we keep on losing that purity, it gets tainted. Even our happiness starts shrinking. So there's a direct correlation between these two. So the key is to do good, feel good, and experience goodness. But experience goodness would come not only from being good and doing good, but also to working on the quality of our mind. And this is where spirituality comes in. No institute in this world, no matter how elite it might be, you go to Harvard, you go to MIT, you go to Stanford, nobody gives you a technology on how to become more happy. And they can give you the technology how to be successful, become good manager, good leader, all that stuff. But how do you get closer to the goal of life, which is to become happy and get that perfect happiness? Nobody can teach you that. And it's only in spirituality we can, one can take the refuge and understand the underlying secrets to become happy. And the secret is to have a purer mind. Antakaran Shuddhi is the only agenda of human life. Rest all is self-created agendas. Okay, the drama that we start participating in. So with that said, let's move on. to our shloka. We are talking about the concept of surrender, but this is a very important principle. Next time, when we are looking at happiness, and if you have this question mark in your head, why don't I feel happy? Or then I think the buck stops at us. It's just that we need to work on ourselves a little harder. The situation, circumstances, anything and everything that you see, it's easy to put blame on them, but the bottom line is it's the quality of our mind that determines the quotient of happiness that we experience in our life, and there's nothing more to it. You look at Helen Keller and some of the people who were born with so much of disadvantage in their life, the disabilities that they were, and still they could make such a meaningful, purposeful life, and they were so happy and felt blessed to be living this life. On the other hand, some people have pretty much everything laid out to them on a platter, but if the mind is not cooperating or it is not pure, it is tainted with so many material impressions, cravings, desires, then it can lead to unhappiness and dissatisfaction as well. Now let's get to our shloka that we've been discussing. We'll continue on our discussion. Today we'll go a little deep and also talk about some of the scenarios depending upon how much time we get. Practical implementation. Surrender is fine. We've been talking about how do we apply it in life. That is what we will get into. So let's recite it like we always do, and we'll take a few hands today. तमेव शरणं गच्छ सर्वभावेन भारत तत्प्रसादात् परां शान्तिं स्थानं प्राप्स्यसि शाश्वतम्. Let's take a few hands.
Ramji, please go ahead.
Radhe
Radhe Radhe. Tamev sharanam gaccha sarvabhaven bharata tat prasadat param shantim sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam. Radhe Radhe.
Thank you. Radhe Radhe.
Go ahead, Sandhya.
I see 10 hands. Okay, it's one shot of Indian cricket team. Okay, so maybe we'll take 5 with their cameras on and then move on. We have a lot of content to cover as well.
Okay, Radhe Radhe. तमेव शरणं गच्छ सर्वभावेन भारत तत्प्रसादात् परां शान्तिं स्थानं प्राप्स्यसि शाश्वतम्.
Very nice. Thank you, Sandhya.
Go ahead, Aparna ji.
Radhe Radhe. तमेव शरणं गच्छ सर्वभावेन भारत तत्प्रसादात् परां शान्तिं स्थानं प्राप्स्यसि शाश्वतम्. Thank you. Radhe Radhe.
Nice.
Uday Kumar ji.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. Tam eva sharanam gaccha sarvabhavena bharata tat prasadat param shantim sthanam prapsyashi shashvatam. Radhe Radhe.
You, Radhe Radhe. Go ahead, Amrutamani ji. Oh, Samji.
After Samji, I will. Go ahead, Sam.
Radhe
Radhe Radhe.
Sharanam gaccham sarvabhavena bharata tat prasada param shantim sthanam prapasyasi shashvatam. Radhe Radhe.
Samji, Radhe Radhe. I see Diva today. Diva, go ahead. Good to see you.
Radhe Radhe. तमेव शरणं गच्छे सर्वभावेन भारत तत्प्रसादात् परां शान्तिं स्थानं प्रपास्यसि शाश्वतम्.
Very nice, Diva. Thank you. All right, let's quickly take the remaining hands as well. For the persistence that Payalji and Riyaji are showing, let's take them as well. Okay, please go ahead.
Go ahead, Payalji.
तमेव शरणं गच्छ सर्वभावेन भारत तत्प्रसादात् परां शान्तिं स्थानं प्राप्स्यसि शाश्वतम्. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Thank you for turning on your video, Payalji.
Go ahead.
Tawani, please go ahead, and then we'll take Riyaji as well. Last two, and then we get started.
Sure. Priyaji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe.
Tameva sharanam gaccha sarvabhavena bharata tat prasadat param shantim sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam. Radhe Radhe.
Ramaniji, please.
Yes. Tameva sharanam gaccha sarvabhavena bharata tat prasadat param shantim sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam.
Very nice. Thank you. So let's get started. Surrender exclusively unto him with your whole being, O Bharat. By his grace, you will attain perfect peace and the eternal abode. Now, one of the things that prevents us from surrendering is our intolerance to pain, or our inability to take adversity in life, or the lack of acceptance around situations which are not convenient or comfortable to us. So we'll tackle that briefly and then move on to a few more interesting insights related to this topic. So let's look at this part, the adversity, pain, things that don't go our way and all that stuff that happens. And pretty much everybody would have some kind of a narrative or a story that they can relate to in their lives, right? So let's try to talk about it a little bit, right? But anyways, now we spoke about the surrender. Let's start with the story. So there were some Brahmins of Mathura in a state of intoxication. I don't know, Brahmins, they were in a state of intoxication. Yeah, it's kind of an oxymoron, but they were Kalyugi Brahmins. They got into a boat which was chained to the shore. After a night of vigorous rowing, they found that they had not moved an inch. So they started rowing the whole night. They kept on rowing, they kept on rowing, they kept on rowing. And when the dawn broke out, they realized and they became a little sober as well, after a night's workout. They realized where they had started from, that they're exactly where they are. Right. So what happened exactly? It was the boat was chained. Now you keep on rowing the boat, it's going to take anywhere. Right? So what does it signify? What it signifies is similar to that in devotion. It's not the first time we are practicing spirituality, and hopefully it is the last time, okay? Or may not be the last time, we don't know. We have done that innumerable lifetimes, but our mind is chained to wealth, children, spouse, and so on. And merely attainment of the world, because devotion to God did not factually take place. So if our mind is chained to world and you are doing Hare Ram, Hare Sita, Radhe Radhe, it's basically not leading you anywhere. Okay, it's just like rowing the boat, which is already anchored or chained. And external acts, the things that we do from our senses and our body, they do not count at all. Okay, it's a multiplication with zero. And the result one reaps depends on the attachment of the mind alone. So this is a key thing. Mind is the key thing. And that is what we are talking about surrendering as well. God says, if you verbally surrender to me, does not count for anything. I need the surrender of your mind. And that's something he keeps on polling and checking. Okay. Now let's move on. Okay, starting with this examples. Okay, this is a very beautiful example. We have spoken about it multiple times, so there's no harm in repeating it again. So there's a cocoon and a larva. As you see, it starts coming out of the cocoon, the larva, and when it starts coming out, it struggles. It has to do a bit of a struggle. So there was a boy who would go to school and see this larva pop, the head popping out of that cocoon, and it started seeing it struggle. And one day it said, okay, let me make it easy for this larva. It's struggling big time. So let me just go ahead and cut the cocoon itself. And when he cut it, he was hoping he had already helped it, made it easy for the cocoon. But what happened was this whole larva, it fell on its belly and the fluid spilled out, and it never was able to grow the wings that it would have if he had endured that struggle, and never to soar again like a butterfly ever again. Okay, so this is exactly what happened. So same thing happens in our life as well. When we struggle through it, which might seem torturous, but actually it enables us to grow wings. And if we cut short that process, we are actually not enabling ourselves to grow wings, to soar high spiritually. So hardships are actually a way to progress in life. Okay, if they say, right, the rough seas, they make skillful sailors. And if you simply keep on driving in a highway, not in a highway, but in a road with no traffic, then you know what will happen when you hit some city traffic. So these difficulties are not a bad thing actually in our life. So a spiritualist, person who understands the deeper principles of spirituality, they actually look at it as an opportunity. Here is an opportunity where I can take my journey to the next level, as opposed to saying, oh my God, why it's happening to me, and start complaining about it. So this is not the way of God punishing us. It is a way of God. It said, I prayed for strength and God gave me hurdles to climb. Right? God gives us, He answers our prayer, not necessarily in a manner that we think is beneficial or pleasurable for us, but He answers it in a manner which is beneficial for us. So similar to that, the things that come in our life, they come for a reason. And think of it as an opportunity to grow wing. That is the real, the good perspective to have from a spiritual standpoint, to actually utilize this as an opportunity, as opposed to treating these things as something I need to stay away from. Right? Let's look at another example here. What's the difference between a coal and a diamond? See, nature itself gives us a lot of examples around it. What's the difference between these two? I mean, I think in our science we have studied, I mean, I was not so good at chemistry, for that matter, any subject, but I remember vaguely that both are carbon, right? But still, they are different. And the difference is between diamond and coal is, diamond is a piece of coal which has been able to withstand an extensive pressure for an extended period of time, right? Like under extreme pressure, somebody takes that, and for an extended, it becomes diamond. So even nature has examples around that, right? Even the gold, when you take it to the test of fire multiple times, it purifies further. So this is our way of purifying ourselves, or taking the leap from a spiritual standpoint. And this is the way Maya is also serving God, because Maya, we have spoken about this concept. There are three energies, primary energies of God, the ones that we need to be caring about. There are infinite, by the way. Maya is one of the Shaktis, right? His external energy. Then he has got his Yogamaya power, his Atrangi Shakti, and then he has got his Jeev Shakti, Tatastha Shakti, which is who we are. Maya being a Shakti of God, Shakti is subservient to the Shaktiman. Energy is subservient to the energetic. It is also serving. So these things, opportunities that come our way, is a mar of Maya, whack of Maya, to tell this is not the place you need to be. You need to be actually directing your efforts towards my master, not me. Okay, so two things Maya does. One is, like, let's say there's a fire. You put your hand in the fire, two things happen. What happens? So your hand burns, which, is it a good thing? It's not a good thing. Hand burning is not a good thing. But then you have a sensation of pain. Is it a good thing? It's a good thing. Why? Because pain will tell you have to take an evasive action. If pain, you won't experience the pain, you'll not take an evasive action, and you'll burn down your entire hand. That's what happens in leprosy. People lose that sensation. So even if their hand is on fire, they will not know it. Not that they have become Vide, but they have lost the sensation. So similarly, Maya, it keeps on reminding us from time to time by giving us disappointments, hardships, that this is not the right place to. But then the good thing is, the pain is actually good in the way that it actually enables your soul to take a leap. Even if you plot a graph of your life, we did this exercise when we started off with this session, which is a very fascinating exercise. All of you can do it at home, at your leisure. Plot the chart of your life, 3 or 5 incidents that gave you immense pleasure, and incidents that gave you immense distress, or something that you said that was really hardship for me, bad times for me. And you would be surprised, not surprised, I mean, in fact, if you reflect back on it, you will see that the moments where you felt low in life, or the toughest time of your life, are the moments that have given you depth and defined the person who you are today. So that is the significance of adversities which come our way. Okay. Let's move on. So why am I discussing? I'll just tie it all together. Okay. So don't think
A quick question, Nitinji. Sorry to interrupt.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we become impure as we grow when compared to when we were children?
Why do we? It's See, this is the material impressions, they start falling upon us. Kid is innocent when it's like a dewdrop. In the morning, it is pure, but by the end of the day, it has impressions. Right? The first Sharso we learn from our first guru, our mother only, right? That kid is pure, kid doesn't know how to speak true, lie. So mother says when the neighbor would come and knock at the door, you tell the neighbor that mom is not at home. So neighbor comes and the kid says, you know what? My mother has told me to tell you that the mother is not at home. Okay, so kid is so innocent, but then he gets a whack. This is not what you're supposed to say. And then he starts implementing the same thing in life. So the material impressions are very strong. If you look at kids, they are very innocent. I mean, I start seeing our little one, he started going to second standard and some of the exposure he's getting. I'm like, oh my God, what's happening? But that is the sung you get. Wherever you spend the time, throughout the day, that sung you get, and he talks about things which I'm like, okay, we got exposure to these things when we were in 10th class or 8th class. But this is how it is. So impressions of this material world are very, very strong. And by the time we figure out what is kusang, what is satsang, hopefully, fingers crossed, we do, when we get exposure to spirituality, then we have to start doing the unlearning part of it. Okay, what are the things I need to safeguard myself for? What are the practices I need to inculcate in my day-to-day life to keep my mind sanitized? But some people don't even get that exposure. They don't even know they are part of the kusang because they are so busy in the rat race of their material life or corporate life. They don't even know this is kusang, that is satsang, right? There's no differentiation whatsoever. So for them, just leading a normal life, being honest, serving people, helping out, that is good enough. But they don't understand the deeper secrets around there also. There's so much binding karma that is happening, so much of kusang that is happening, and how do you safeguard that? So that is how our life, unfolds. So our past sanskars, they drive us, up to a certain age, and then the impressions of this life are so strong, the sang and everything, that it all becomes diluted. And then we have to start the journey back, unlearn everything, and then sanitize our mind and antakaran shuddhi and all that stuff that we talk about. And spirituality actually gives us the tools and techniques to actually achieve that, right? That the practices that we have to do on a day-to-day basis. So growth happens at the end of the comfort zone. The comfort zone is actually, people want to be in the comfort zone, but actually comfort zone does not give you growth. We have to become comfortable with the idea of being uncomfortable. Okay, even corporates in the leadership courses, they tell you that, right? Only thing constant is change, embrace it, and then don't think that something will only when you will settle all the chaos will you have a perfect life. Nothing of that sort. It's meant to be like that. Adi Bhautik, Adi Daivik, Adhyatmik, we have already spoken about, right? So all these things we have to deal with. I see a couple of hands raised. Any questions or anything you wanted to add, Taranji?
Yeah, Radhe Radhe Nitinji. So one way of looking at the difficulties or the difficulties coming in our life is not by the gods or the Maya's wish, or it is something coming to us what we have done. So law of karma.
True.
So which perspective is correct?
It's true. Now let me explain that is true. Law of karma is always in action. However, God picks up the drop. We spoke about the Sanchit karma and then the prarabdha and the kriman, right? He picks up the prarabdha in such a way, it's a hand-picked course or a hand-picked series of tests for every individual based on what they are capable of. So God does not give you a test, or he does not pick a prarabdha for you, which will just break you down. Usually it doesn't happen. So he gives you the test based on your ability. So it's like, see, if you don't get a test, like let's say you are at this level, right? And the kind of test that you are getting at way below your ability, then what will happen? You will not grow and you will remain complacent in life. You will remain in your comfort zone or in your bubble. But let's say your tests are way above your ability. Then what will happen? When the test will come, it will break you down. So God knows how to stretch the envelope just a little more than your comfort zone. When you stretch yourself, you will come out bigger and stronger and better. So that is how the custom course for our life is designed, because there's no escape from the binding karma at all. And binding karma, we are doing binding karma all the time. Now, some people may think, doing the sattvic deeds is good enough. But that is where Bhagavad Gita, right? Where I have spoken about this, where Quran ends, Quran ends and don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, right? This is the punishment for this. Where it ends, Bible begins, and Bible ends at saying, be good. Now, where Bible ends, Bhagavad Gita says. Bhagavad Gita, initially, if you have gone through that, we have spoken to it, right? In chapter 2, Lord Krishna starts telling Arjun, what is your duty, right? So if you are limited to your duty and sattvic deeds alone, that is not good enough. That is also binding karma, because at best it will take you to celestial abodes, and then you're again back into 8.4 million. So some people think if they are, living honestly, earning their paycheck, helping people out, going to charity and all that stuff they are doing, that is good enough. They don't need to get into this hocus pocus stuff of spirituality and faith in God and who has seen life and all that stuff. But Bhagavad Gita clearly tells us, there's no escape from it, because even punya is something which is binding. And that sattvic pleasure is even more difficult to let go of, because you are deriving pleasure out of it. And at the same time, you're inflating your ego. I'm doing it, I'm doing it, I'm doing it. And that is where Lord Krishna introduces the science of work, where he says, even if you do sattvic thing, it's not good enough. You have to tap into Shuddha Sattva, where with the consciousness that you are a mere instrument. And thank God that he's enabling you to do that, to get somebody's else work done. And that is the science of work. That is what Bhagavad Gita says. It is Guhya, Guhyatar, and Guhyatam. That means it is a confidential knowledge, more confidential, and the most confidential. As we continue to progress, we'll go through each one of, we have already covered the confidential aspect, which is the soul aspect of it. So the point here is that, yes, law of karma is at play. Maya is orchestrating it, but God picks that drop for you, which is well within your ability to tackle. He's not going to give you a test that will break you forever. But if you don't have a perspective, you may get into, negativity, pessimism in life. Just one incident happens. And they say that Murak bhukte roye, Jnani bhukte gyante, Murak bhukte roye. Because Maya anyway is going to give you tests, and the one who is endowed with wisdom will tackle it with knowledge, and the one who's not endowed with wisdom, they will simply crib, cry, and whine when something bad happens in life. And that is meant to happen. Nobody is immune from that at all, right? So comfort zone is something that we should not crave for. In fact, Kunti, right? Kunti Devi, there's a famous thing that when Lord Krishna said, you have always had, tough life, right? From having to leave your baby boy when you were not married, right? When she was testing out that boon from Durvasa, all the way up to, losing Karan and then having a very tough life. So what should I give you? I said, give me a life where I have, she asked for miseries from Krishna. I don't know what state of mind she was in. Said that always gave me a reason to feel you are with me, and I don't want to let go of that feeling. But that is a very elevated state. But even the situations that come in our life, I think if we have a proper perspective, they could be channelized or dovetailed towards our spiritual advancement, as opposed to becoming pessimistic and negative in life. That's a key message. And when we have that approach, that makes our surrender and acceptance easy in life. If you don't have that, that itself could be a biggest impediment for us, because life is going to be a sine curve. It's not like a flat curve. It's going to be a sine curve, ups and downs. Nobody is immune from that. And that is how it's meant to be. Now, moving on, if you look at learning from success, if you look at pain, there are two ways of going about it. Either you complain or you gain. You have a choice. When the pain comes, either you complain or you gain. So gaining is the right perspective to have. This is a catalyst for inner growth. Pain is a catalyst for inner growth. So put it as a punchline. It's not that you start seeking pain and become a masochist, but if it comes organically in our life, let's utilize it as an opportunity, as opposed to saying, oh my God, why it's happening to me. Right? Yes, Sandhya, you had a question?
Actually relates to the line which was there on the previous slide about comfort zone. So when we get started with any new activity, we are not in our comfort zone. We do practice, and eventually we will get into a comfort zone when we can probably try doing it in the best possible or closer to the good way where we can do, right? Now, then there comes two options. Either we can thinking that, okay, now kind of I'm getting in the comfort zone, I need to now add something else so that growth doesn't stop. But the other option is that continue doing it, Now that I'm in a comfort zone, I can do it even better than what I could have otherwise imagined.
When you say even better than, you're already pushing the envelope there, right?
But that's never, you said now we're always 99. Like we never are at the highest, best version of ourselves.
True, we can endeavor, right? See, end of the day, we can do only so much. Even in God realization, God is one part of it is our effort, and second part of it is grace, right? So we rely on that. But whatever we are doing, at least wherever we are leaving our signature, we can strive to do the best in that, right? Now you say whether I should end up becoming a farmer or a hunter, right? Farmer does the same thing over and over and over again. Hunter goes after new things. So depending upon our tendency, propensity, let's be true to our nature and do that. For the sake of putting ourselves uncomfortable, I mean, those are the calls we have to take, given the context and the situation where we are in. End of the day, it should be helpful to somebody as well, right? It's not like, okay, now I've become comfortable, I need to do something else. It's a very contextual question again, right? Now I'm comfortable doing these sessions. I should say, why am I doing this, right? I start questioning that itself. Will it be smart or not? I don't know. So yeah, it's contextual. We have to, the key thing is we have to push the envelope on our side. Keep on adding more value to what we are doing. That is the key, because then you are aligning to the growth principle. If we get stagnated, it's not good. Stagnated water also putrefies, right? Only when it is moving, it is good. But yeah, if there's a particular scenario, we can talk about that, but let's continue. Now, surrender means doing your best and leaving to God the rest. Okay, it does not say don't do anything, become fatalist. No, you have to do your best and leave to God the rest. The second aspect of surrender, not second aspect, I've just summarized a few points. After doing whatever is within your control with best of intentions, trying to align to SP1, surrender principle 1, having acceptance aligned to SP2, surrender principle 2, not having worries, anxieties, and fear. Okay, fear is actually face everything and rise, not get paralyzed. Full of positivity, hope, and enthusiasm. Mindset to utilize everything, skills, money, etc. in the service of God. That differentiates between bhog and yog. When we do things with a sense of entitlement, I have done it, I deserve it, I'll do it for my sake, that becomes bhog. Bhog leads to rog. That is not only binding karma, but then you are just fueling your desires, putting more ghee or butter into the fire. It will never satiate. You will keep on. It's like when I earn more, rather than looking at raising the standard of your living more, you should think I should earn more so that I can give more. That attitude makes it yoga and liberating karma as opposed to a binding karma. And every skill, money, if you've not added seva to it yet, let's sincerely think about it. Seva aspect you have to add. I'm telling you, Lord Krishna is not present right now. God is not present right now. He's not taken avatar right now. And still he's making us do so many things. He's making us serve his Maya energy, right? We are at leadership positions, or we might be an employee, or whatever we are doing. We are already serving his inferior energy. He's not manifested. If he had manifested, you don't know what kind of work he would have taken from you, right? If he had gone to Gopi's house in present times, I don't know what he would have done. He would have created a ruckus in the kitchen, maybe burst few cylinders and stuff like that. So if you're not used to doing seva for God, that's a mindset we need to acquire very quickly, because there's no escape from seva. If you really want to meet him in person, he's not going to look at your face and say, okay, let's keep looking at each other. There also we'll have to do seva, right? So seva mindset actually is good to inculcate, in whatever form we can start doing it. And whatever skill set God has endowed us with, see how we can utilize it for his service, directly or indirectly, in some form or manner, because then we are directly becoming an employee of Krishna, employee of God, right? You may call it Ram, Shiv, Durga, Parvati, or whoever is your Ishtadev. Sometimes some aspect of our life has to be dedicated to that, and seva is the best way to do that, because sadhana is something we may get stuck after a while, who's going to think, and may get bored and stuff like that. But seva, you can go on for hours and hours together without getting tired. That is the benefit of adding seva to your life. Now, let's talk about some practical scenarios. Okay. Maybe tomorrow we can continue on that discussion. So what does it mean? Life is life. right? What do we do with all the surrender principles? So let's try to take some scenarios and see, can we map surrender to these principles at all? And I would like some participation now from this point onwards. By the way, tomorrow I'm traveling and it's 50-50 for me what my company people are going to do with me tomorrow. I'm trying to escape for this session, but if I don't, I want to build on this discussion plus a couple of beautiful videos I have lined up from Swamiji, which are amazing participants. Few participants will be able to run and facilitate that discussion for. I'll be joining, even if it's a little late, but just giving you a heads up around it. But let's get this discussion going. Scenarios: losing a near and dear one. Okay, this is something which all of us would have experienced in some form or manner. There's no family, right, where you don't lose somebody whom you hold dear to heart. I think Buddha was asked by somebody that, you have divine powers. Can you resurrect or bring my son to life? A woman approached him. So he said, sure, I can do that. But for that, you go to a house and get me a mustard seed where there has been no bereavement ever. Nobody has died ever. So then she goes around and she could not find even a single family. That's a part of life, right? This material life, Jan, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, we all have to deal with. And this death that we call is nothing but the shedding of our cross body. And then we take on a new body. But losing a near and dear one is one of the toughest things that we have to experience. Now, how do we apply these principles? Let's talk about that. Are they even applicable? We'll look at that as well. Dealing with this difficult person, spouse, relative, friend, it will bring smiles to a lot of people's faces. Okay, that is a part of life as well, right? A couple of people will come to your mind. Oh my God, how do I deal with them? Or I'm stuck in this kind of a relationship. Getting cheated, harmed happens. Dealing with uncertainty in life happens, we know. And other unfavorable situations. That's a journal catch-all. I have kept it. Okay, if you have any situation you want to specifically discuss, these are the 6 principles we have spoken about. This is the matrix. Now let's get started with the first one. Or any questions before we get into the discussion? It's important that what we are learning, we should be able to utilize it in the laboratory of our lab, and life will throw us ample opportunities to practice these principles. So let us pick up things where, how do we approach this with, the situations which are tricky for us or we find very difficult to deal with. How do we apply these principles? What is the reasoning you would give yourself if you were to practice surrender in any of these scenarios? So let's start with the first one. Anybody who wants to take that? Or any questions before that? Pin drop silence. I actually heard a pin drop. I don't know whose pin was it, but and then one will raise hand and then everybody will start. Okay, there you go. Okay. Yes, Shyamji, please go ahead. You are the one who's going to set the cat among the pigeons today. Go ahead, please.
Radhe Radhe. Yeah, I can surrender in the first scenario, losing a near and dear one.
I know.
I hope
I know
you
when you
also.
started with these sessions and the journey yet you've been through. So yeah, I know that. But yeah, can you share your experience? How would you reconcile in your head and losing your father and that blood relations? It's the most difficult one to take, right? So if you can
It
talk
was quite difficult. I guess I told you also, because it was my first few months when I started Gita. I guess January we started, and April I lost my dad in COVID. It was just one day and he was not there. And the same day, I guess we were citing the slokas about soul.
Nayanam
Chindanti
Chindranti
Chasnani
right?
Dehati Power. So I do not know how it reconciled, but everything was planned. And the next week, Swamiji was there, if you remember. Surprise for us. It happened all the same week, same 10 days. It was difficult for me to lose my dad because we only went with him to the hospital, dropped him there. And somewhere in my mind, I was thinking it is not correct. We will not get him back. I had that intuition. And the day he went, the doctor could not call us because of some network issues. He called us next morning after around noon time. But trust you me, I saw his soul in my. I was in my living room that time with my kids watching a movie, trying to pacify them myself, and my wife was in other room doing some ironing of clothes. And the same moment we saw a figure I saw a figure passing by me. At the same time, my wife saw a figure passing by her, and we did not speak to each other because we were so I do not know what word. But next morning, when the doctor called us, he told us that about this time your dad passed away. It was about 9:30 in the evening, and then we would meet each other, and we knew what we were saying. So same time, I guess he came to see us or say us goodbye. And next day, I did my class also, Gita, because I wanted to be away from all those things because it was COVID and we had nowhere to go. And the body was that time was not being given to us in all the hospitals, and he had gone to a government hospital, in the army hospital. But somehow God made everything work for us. We could get the body, we could go do the last rites properly, and we could also go to Haridwar because that time was very difficult to go out of the state. But I guess it was because of Bhagavad Gita only that I could console myself and stand, because in the cremation ground we were just three, four of us. My brother, my uncle, and one more, and nobody was there with us. But the strength I got from there, and Nitin, you also called me that day. It all, and Somaji was also. I spoke to him. I could speak to him first time, and it just helped me that I could stand on my own and just surrender because everything was falling in place, and I wanted to do something I could not do, but things were just in place. Everything went up so smoothly, so finely that things were perfect. And trust you me, since 2020 we was classes doing 21, I have stopped expecting anything from anywhere, and I just surrendered to God. I had so much of my work pending which was not able to happen for last 10 years, and I left to God. मैंने कहा ठीक है जो करना है कर ले, तेरी मर्जी है. I will talk to you once I'm there with you. And trust me, everything is falling in place in the perfect line and perfectly. And then my dad passed away because of some illness, but when my mom passed away, we had lunch together, and I sent my wife to work. I was there with her. She slept in the evening around 4:35, and I got this Bhagavatam from one of the participant in USA. She gifted me 2 sets, and that was the only day I opened the first Bhagavatam, first chapter, canto, and that's the only day that year, that day, and today I have not opened Bhagavatam at all. But I do not know what made me open Bhagavatam. I read a couple of pages, and then I closed it. Something flashed my mind. I do not know. I went into a room, and my mom was still sleeping there. But I could sense something is wrong. Something was wrong there. My wife came home after an hour, and we were having chai and jalebi. See the irony of God, irony of life. We were having chai and jalebi, and my mom was lying there dead, and we had no clue. But then somehow we felt something's not right. We tried to wake her up. She could not wake her up, and she was not there. So these two incidents of life really shattered me. But just because of Gita, I am the way I am, and we all feel like she went a peaceful death. But it's all because of this. That I do not plan anything for last 3.5 years. I just take life as it comes, and I have no, I would not say interest in real material things, but God's been kind to me. Whatever I could not do in last 10-12 years, He has made it happen for me in last couple of years, and life is being so smooth. And it's just because of, I guess, surrender. I have just surrendered to God.
So yeah,
I
Shambhaya,
totally trust in Him. कि जो करना है, I जैसे बोल रहा हूँ मैं ऐसे बोलता हूँ, जो करना है तो कर ले. I will just talk to you once I'm there with you, one to one. And I guess that's helping me a lot in every sphere of my life, in every sphere of my life.
sure.
Uh,
Thank
Thank
you
you so
for
much.
sharing.
Radhe Radhe.
I know it's not easy to relive all those moments and details, but thank you for sharing that with the broader group. I know it's a closed group here. Thank you so much for sharing that. I know, how those times were, but I think the way you're looking at it and, having that acceptance, I think that itself is a big deal. So we should all feel inspired and draw a lot of strength out of it. Now, coming back to the principles here, how would one reconcile desire per God's desire? Don't desire against God's desire. What should be the attitude when this kind of a thing happens? Let's map it to the surrender principle here. You see, it's a difficult thing, but it's important to do that, because if you're not able to take this knowledge and be able to implement it based on all the scenarios that, or maybe some more scenarios, then it's not point, because these are the situations that all of us are going to come across at some point in life, right? And that is where it's important to refresh the knowledge what we have read in Bhagavad Gita and be able to implement it and make use of this knowledge. And that is truly serving the purpose of reading the scripture and pleasing God in that sense. So let's hear from some participants. What would it make? It would be in this kind of a scenario, if anybody wants to take that. The whole matrix, the first one that I'm talking about: firm faith on God's protection, attitude of gratitude, everything belongs to God, surrender the pride. How will each one of these apply in this scenario? Anybody wants to take any part of it? Diva, you wanted to add something?
Go ahead, Beta.
Yes, I wanted to add something. So my father just talked about two very emotional incidents in our lives in the past 2 years. So something similar happened to me as well. I was about to, I'm in Canada at the moment. So when I was about to travel to Canada, I was initially about to fly on 26th of December last year in 2022. So, I mean, I had all my plans ready and, I was so confident and, I had my talk with God already that Jo marzi ho jaye, I am going this year. 2022 is the year when I'm going to go. New Year 2023, I'm going to, celebrate in Canada. And I had all these plans ready. And I mean, I thought that this is what's going to happen. But just before a day I was supposed to fly, I met with a road accident and I fractured my right arm. So that completely changed course for me. I stayed back in India for another 3-4 months. And at that point of time, I mean, I think the first month was very disturbing for me in a lot of ways. I mean, the physical pain was there, of course, and then I could not understand why that happened. The emotional pain was different too. But I think that particular incident in my life has not a very big incident, but I think it has been a very big incident for me, and it has changed the way I look at things now. Because it's like I realize that God always has a plan, irrespective of what you think, what you don't think. You might think that you want something in life, but it's just there is always a master plan, and that suddenly comes into play, and you don't realize that, oh, this was about to happen, but He already knew. So just something that my father mentioned right now, that we were trying to sell a property and buy a house. So we were planning for the past so many years, and it was just a plan. It wasn't, we weren't able to accomplish that. But just after my arm broke, I stayed in India. Suddenly, in those 2-3 months when I was in India, everything, kind of worked out. We started looking at a house, we bought the property, and then I was there to, I went with my parents and my family to go see the property. And that was something that we all had been wanting for so long. And I was so happy that I was at least there to witness it before I left. I could not stay there for long, and I mean, I haven't seen the place as of today yet because I am not in India. But it's like those 3-4 months changed a lot of things for me, and even I have a new perspective in life now because I'm still struggling today. I mean, in Canada, I don't have everything in place. Everything's not the best situation as it should have been, but I'm not stressed that much. I'm like, okay, what's the worst that could happen? I know someone's going to take care of me at the end. So that's just a personal experience I have had.
Great, Diva. Thanks for sharing that. I think goes back to what we were talking about, some of the hard moments, hardships that we endure in our life that goes on to define who we are today. And in hindsight, those are the best things that happen to us, right? So one plan is what we make for ourselves, one is what people make for us, and third is God's plan, master plan, like you said, which supersedes all the plan, and that is the best plan for us. Great. Let's hear from Hasmita, and then we'll come to the other hands. Again, I want to go back to the matrix. How would we look at this particular situation? I'll give you a story, and then we can get that going. Yes, Hasmita, you wanted to add something? Go ahead, please.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. So I wanted to add to the third column, firm faith on God's protection. So this is kind of a silly incident, but I was this was a few years ago when I was in New Jersey. I was going somewhere and then suddenly like there was a huge rainstorm, thunderstorm, lightning, thunder, and rain everywhere. And I was crying. I think I was like 9 at the time. I wasn't sure, but I was like crying so hard, and I was like, oh, I don't want to like. I literally thought I was gonna die in that storm because I was so scared because the car was shaking and the roads were slippery. So and then I was like, I was crying so hard, and my mom was like, "Don't worry, God will protect us. God is just like putting on this storm, like so He can control it. So He's gonna protect you." And then after that, I like eased my crying, and I was like thinking about it. I kept praying so hard. Like I don't think I've like prayed that fast ever. I was praying. I was doing all the shlokas I knew, and then once I reached my destination safely, I was like, "Thank you, God, for saving me." And and after my mom told me, I was like, I believe in God's protection. And then since every storm that comes, I'm always like, okay, God is making the storm so He can control it and He can protect me.
That is nice. That's a very cute story. And by the way, if those of you who don't know whose daughter Hasmita is, that is Amruta Vaniji, okay? Who's our lucky mascot for Bhagavad Gita. I always say that. So thank you, Hasmita, for narrating that story. Yes, anything could trigger or spark of that faith that we have in God. So thank you for narrating that beautiful story. Okay, now God, desire per God's desire. How do you lose somebody and then how would you say this is God's desire? Right? That means you have to have an acceptance around that situation. So there was a couple, right, where this guy, he lost his wife and he was not able to come to terms with that, get a closure on that. He was struggling with that bereavement. Okay, I've lost my wife whom I loved so much, right? And then Swamiji was telling this story and he said, then he gave him another alternate perspective. He said, okay, what if your wife had, you had outlived your wife? Would you have liked your wife to go through that ordeal? He said, definitely not. So that gave him a closure. So there may be a reason for that, right? What if, the other kind of a scenario? So of course, when somebody comes, they have to go. We all are traveling in a train with our exit tickets, and that is fixed. That is preordained in that sense. And then if we have to go, we have to head. Maybe that's his wish. He has some better plans. Maybe the body was not suitable, for them to live at this age, especially if somebody was old. Enough reasons we can give, but the key is to have acceptance rather than complain at that point. Because when we complain, or that's when we are violating that principle. It's very difficult, but that is the sentiment we need to bring in. Give ourselves a reason around why somebody has to go. It could be any time, right? We talk about Abhimanyu in Mahabharata as an example, right? He was, what age was he? 16 years. So if he's supposed to be here only for 16 years, so be it. His father was Arjun, who was Nar Narayana Avatar. His uncle was Krishna, who was God himself. His marriage was done by Ved Vyas himself. And despite all of that, when he had to go, he had to go. In fact, to take Arjun to a closure in that Leela, Arjun was doing a lot of vilap, that, oh, I lost my son. And Krishna said, all right, let me give you a closure. He takes him to Abhimanyu, who's, I think, in the moon planet or whichever next loka that he had gone to. And he said, son, my son. And he said, which son are you talking about? In so many lives, I've been your father and you've been my son. And soul does not have that kind of a relationship, right? So the point is that we lose that picture, that knowledge slips, and that's when we keep on lamenting for long. So in that case, again, we need to bring in that knowledge that everything is happening as per God's plan or his desire only. And that is an opportunity to align to that first principle. Very difficult in this scenario, but again, these are the times when we can bring that knowledge to our head, and then don't get into a complaint mood. Why did this happen? Only if he had seen this. Why did this happen to me only? All that stuff your mind will cook up because of our conditioned state, but that's where I think we need to really practice it hard. Yes, Sandhya, and then we'll go to Pratyusha and a few more hands that we have. You wanted to add something, Sandhya?
So I think we have discussed various aspects of this situation, right? One thing I just wanted to add was that we can see this, it's difficult, right? It's very difficult even after having acceptance about that,
It is.
right? But seeing this difficulty as God that you have now snatched away, taken back your people whom you had sent to be associated with me. So now it is more of a reason for you to come and take care of me and show me yourself, right? So that sadness that can be redirected towards the yearning for God, like increasing that manifolds, right?
That's a
So
good way of looking at it. Very true. That's very true. Now it's like I have one less thing that I thought was mine and who's going to be with, would have been with me forever. Now it's all the more reason for you to come and take care of me. That's a good way of dovetailing it in that sense. Very true. So yeah, there's these. So basically, see, I will talk about the other situations as well, and that is where you can build on it in tomorrow's sessions. See if this concept is. I would like to have a discussion around if somebody feels, you know what, this surrender principle is not applicable in this particular scenario, at least on this. If anybody has that, that would elicit a good conversation here, and then we can talk through it, think through it, and say whether it is applicable, yes or no, why or why not. Okay, that's the whole idea. Yes, Pratyusha, you wanted to add something, and then we'll come to Annapurna ji.
Hello everyone. Hello sir. Sir, like I was thinking about discussing about dealing with uncertainty in life. So a particular situation that happened. That in 2021, when the COVID was over, my father-in-law in India got COVID, but he recovered. Then he had like, and I just finished my Bhagavad Gita at that time, for the first time. So he was interested and he said, I want to learn. So I was like, okay, I will try to tell you whatever I know. So I was teaching. And that's probably the first time we are interacting, like, kind of in a free way and all of that. And suddenly I realized that he is just losing his memory. He's not remembering what I told him yesterday and all that. And like in 2 days, he was in hospital. He was in ICU. And there was a major problem in his brain and he was not able to talk. He doesn't remember anyone. My mother-in-law told my husband to come. And there were like visa issues were there. They were not giving visas. And we had to have stamping done. So my husband said, I will come back in 2 weeks. So I said, okay, go, because my son's OCI was not ready and they were not giving the visa for 6 months also. And when he went, he got the date for the visa in September and he went in February. So I have to live now, without OCI and all of that for so many months. And frankly, I don't even know how to drive, a long distances. I'll go short, nearby and all of that. Then, okay, I said, okay, this is what God desires. So that was the first thing. And I just took up the challenge. My son was like a 2-year-old. And I took him around everywhere that I went and I learned proper driving at that time. That was one thing. And then I just said, okay, I surrendered. Whatever is going to happen. And I applied for his OCI. It took like 45 days to come. On the other side, the doctor said now he has dementia and nothing can be done. And I have a medical background, so I know it cannot happen in 2 or 3 days because I was talking to him. So I started doing research on, is this somewhere related to COVID? And I got certain papers that the people have done research on like very few people. And I sent it to my husband. I said, please tell the doctors to do this, because doctors were like, no, they tied him up. They put a hole in his neck to feed him. All of that because he was resisting and all that. But then I said, you have to convince the doctors. And doctors started shouting at my husband, how dare you tell what to do and all of that. And he said, I'm a desperate son. Please consider. And I gave them the exact medication. I gave them the exact test and they were like really egoistic. But then my husband persisted and they did the test and it was positive for autoimmune. And only thing, and he was there in the hospital for 1 month, and only thing that they had to do was give him an steroid medication, which they said no, it's a tumor. They did a cancer. They kept him in ICU for like 1 month in total, and finally they gave him medication. And in like 2-3 days, his memory came back. Everything came back. And when I was doing this research, actually, I had firm faith in God. I wanted to teach him Bhagavad Gita. So I was like, God, you have to give me some solution. You have to do this for me. And that worked. So, and then finally, when everything came back home, I got my son's OCI. I flew to India. There again, I also had to do my stamping. So my dates were like I was getting in 2022. My husband was getting in September. I got in 22. But then I kept, checking, and I got it just like couple of days before his interview. So by the time everything was said and done, in September we were back in US. So that was one incident.
What was your key learning
Dealing
from
with
the
it.
whole ordeal? Having that acceptance and continuing.
Just surrender. Just believe in God. Everything will work out. There's no point. Always be solution oriented. What can you do in that situation? And don't worry too much. Everything will work out. Just keep your faith.
Thank you, Pratisha. Easier, you just explained it so easily, but I can imagine so many uncertainties that you dealt with and how difficult it must have been. Things do fall in place. We just have to be a little persistent. And I'm glad you were able to refresh that knowledge around that time and actually was able to face it. And you are not like, okay, you didn't fall into that complaint trap. Why is it happening to me? And this, and then solution oriented mindset, able to exercise. That's fantastic. And thank you for sharing that. I know we are running a little over time. This is a fascinating discussion because I'll build on it. I would like to hear from you as well, where you say, you know what, we cannot surrender in this situation. I just want to hear that from somebody. If everybody's aligning, that's perfectly okay. That means we have gotten it completely. But if you come by and say in this situation, absolutely not possible, then it will call for interesting. But all the things that I've heard, people are agreeing that you can actually implement these principles in the direst of situations as well. There's no reason why we can't. Yes, Rahul, let's hear from you, and then we'll come to Ipshita ji and Annapurna ji. Let's wrap up this, and then I know we are running over today, but we'll continue to build on this. I want to do this exercise spend a little bit extra time so that we get that practical application aspect of it as well. Yes, Rahul, go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. I just wanted to speak about this scenario dealing with uncertainty in life. But I'm not sure how can we remove that surrender the pride. Yeah, that surrender the pride thing. That can be tricky actually, unless we are 101% surrendered, then that
dealing
pride
with
will come otherwise.
Yeah, so that is the last part which would come in regardless, right? So if you have practiced surrender, all the 5 principles, then this one automatically would come, right? Hey, I've been surrendered. I have acceptance around everything, right? So even that pride should not come. It's like, all right, God, thank you for giving me the wisdom where I have this acceptance. Without your help, nothing would have been possible. That's about it. So the last one is a common denominator if you have practiced surrender in any of these situations, where we don't forget that it is only God who's giving you that wisdom or that acceptance. He's that resilience. He's the source behind that resilience. And don't forget that aspect as opposed to taking credit for yourself. That's about it.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, Ipshita ji. The fact that I could surrender was also because of your grace. That's all. If that prayer is always perpetually sitting in your heart, that's all it is. The 6th principle of surrender. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe to everyone. But before beginning, I want to thank Samji because he introduced me to this Gita session. And I'm so thankful to him. It's really a beautiful session. So I want to tell you that don't desire against God desire. This happened just few days before. In November only it happened. Before that, many things happened, but I don't want to recount on that. But since 1 year I'm practicing bhakti. So after that, what happened was I suddenly was diagnosed with 95% ulcer in my intestine. Together with that, the doctor diagnosed tuberculosis. So I was taking the medicine, and gradually every day I was seeing that I was feeling very tired and I couldn't move my hand and I couldn't get up, but I'm very energetic, I was losing all my energy. So on the 5th day, I lost all my energy and I just fell in bed. And it was such a terrible situation. you can just means I can tolerate pain to you. I cannot explain to what level. This is God's and Guru's kripa. So, but I couldn't tolerate that uncomfortableness, and at that moment I thought maybe my mechanism has surrendered, so I will get another mechanical body in another life. Again, I will continue bhakti. Okay, at this moment, let me think that what Maharajji, I call him Guruji, what Maharajji told me, that just at that moment, think of God or Guru, so that you can get his abode. So I went on thinking about Krishna, Radhe, Ram, nothing came into, means nothing was fitting there. Sansar was coming in. And just when I said Guruji, in my mind, I didn't express it to anyone. I was just closing my eyes. I closed my eyes and I was lying down. And I felt that this is the last moment in my life. So when I said Guruji, suddenly I saw Maharajji in a red apparel, satin red apparel. And he was telling something to me, which I couldn't understand. And then I don't know what happened. Then after, I got a jerk, as if someone was waking me up. Then I got up. Suddenly I got up. Instead, I was lying down. And when the jerk came, I got up straight on, means I sat down. And I saw that already 5 minutes has passed. And because I was keeping an eye on the watch, which is directly in front of me, to see that how long the medicine is taking the effect. And then I closed my eyes. And then when I regained my sense, actually I got senseless. I couldn't tolerate the pain. And I thought I died. Okay. So only Guruji, I went on saying Guruji, 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 and Maharajji was there saying something to me. And when I got up, I saw my mother lying down beside me and everything. Then I realized, okay, I did not die. So that was his desire to see, to make me experience that what pain is when you die. And still you have that, means you have to keep your body proper, to keep remembering God every time. So that situation, it happened. But I didn't desire against God. I didn't tell him that why are you giving me this pain and why everything is happening to me, why I'm getting so much pain, why I'm not coming out from that. I said, okay, when the pain is coming, I'm losing my life. At this moment, I want to think about you. Where you must have seen that my mechanism has gone wrong. You will give me another body. There I can practice bhakti. Okay, I will take it that way. And I remembered God, but God did not come in my mind. Guruji appeared, Maharajji, and as if someone pushed me, get up, what are you doing? You are still awake. And then after that, I stopped the medicine, doctor stopped the medicine. Then again, I was diagnosed that I did not have tuberculosis. It was a wrong treatment. I have the ulcer. And for ulcer, now the treatment is going on and I'm now perfectly okay.
Very nice.
That was my story.
Thank you, Kshitaji, for sharing your story. And this is a very deep experience. And the fact that you were able to think about Guru in those situation itself is a testimony to the sadhana that you have done. It's not easy. It's not a straightforward or an easy thing to do that. But thank you for sharing that story. I know we have little time today. Otherwise, I would have also shared a story about the significance of Guru, right? In situations, I know a few stories around it, something related to what you told, but maybe for some other day. But thank you so much for sharing that story. Very, very inspiring. And Guruji did not want you to depart so soon because you have a lot of things to accomplish in this life and inspire people like us here as well. So thank you so much. Privileged to have you on these sessions. Okay, we'll take last two hands. And I know it's a very interesting discussion. This is one of the most intense sessions we have had. People have come forward with their stories. So we'll try to wrap it up after these two real quick. Sudhakar ji and then Annapurna ji. And we'll take the last two hands. We'll have to cut short our devotional segment again today because we're running out of time. But let's do quick 2 minutes for each one of you.
Go ahead, Sudhakar ji. Radhe Radhe.
And please fill out the feedback tracker if you had any question that did not get, or if you want to have that discussion in coming sessions as well. Yes, Sudhakar ji, please go ahead.
Yeah, Radhe. Actually, I raised my hand to ask you clarification on the impressions which you have tried to clarify it in the session. I just want to know how do or what are the techniques to get rid of our old impressions?
See, old impressions that you're talking about, see, it's like
impressions already integrated in our system.
So even scientifically, they say that our conscious is just a tip of an iceberg. We have had infinite lifetimes, and so many impressions are there. Okay, sometimes the subconscious can surprise you by digging out something from some lifetime that you were not even aware of, right? The only way to cleanse yourself of all the impressions is by doing devotion. See, when something, our mind or our chit is termed in our scriptures as an old, dirty, soiled cloth. And how do you clean an old, dirty, soiled cloth? You apply detergent to it and you clean it in a washing machine, right? With fresh water. And in this world, everything is tainted with the three colors of Maya, right? The Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Even goodness, like I said, right? Some people, they resort to goodness alone. That is also tainted with the color of Sattva. Only thing which is pure in this world is God and God-realized saints. If you can find one and you have a reason to believe, right? Only when you put your mind to God, like that's why they say when you do sadhana, your personal sadhana, whichever your Ishtadev is, you're thinking about them, you're meditating upon them, that has a cleansing effect. And that is the only way to not only cleanse your mind, apply the soap and water that is needed, but also remove the seeds of those impressions as well. That means they will not flare up again. So devotion is the only way. There's no other way. There's no magic pill other than that. You do devotion. It's called an emotional meditation where our heart is like a wax. I've spoken about it. How can a wax take on a new color? It can take on a new color only when you have raised it to a certain temperature and put another color on it. So first, raising to that temperature is the intensity that you build towards God. And then taking on that color is that dhyan that you do. Then automatically it will start taking impressions, right? There's a beautiful saying Swamiji talks about ye anuragi chitta ki gati samjhe na koi jo jo dube sham rang to ujwal hoye. So that means this anuragi chit means the one that chit is so it needs something to attach to. But the secret is jo jo dube sham rang. The more you immerse it in the color of Krishna, color of God, ujwal hoye, automatically it will start cleansing and shining forth. So that is the secret of this impure heart that needs to be cleansed. I hope I answered your question briefly. Let's take the last one, Annapurna ji, and we'll continue this conversation tomorrow. Like I said, I may be joining a little late, but we'll continue with our session tomorrow. And I'll task our amazing volunteers, participants here, who'll run the session with some amazing videos from Swamiji and continue with this discussion, this matrix that we started building. So don't miss out on that. Yes, Annapurna ji, last one for the day.
Yes, I just want to address the first one and losing a loved one. I lost my husband, that was the hardest thing for me in the beginning, because living with him for 50 years, then I have to be thankful that I'm blessed with a wonderful 50 years. But then I 100%, I have faith in God that just like Narsi Mehta took, he wanted me to evolve. If he was alive, maybe I would have spent so much time with him and also, much more attached to him because I took it for granted at the time, that he's going to be there for me forever. But, I have 100% faith in God that he wanted, just like a mother takes away the child's toy when when it is not concentrating on eating or something. Same way, I know God wanted to take away the things that I was very much attached. So I 100% understood, and now I devote all my time to learning, and then dealing, because that is his purpose. Because I believe, I don't know, he knows how many years I am going to be alive. So he has done that for me to evolve. He is looking at the best interests of me. He wants me to go closer to him rather than this material world. That's the way I understood. So I can relate to the third surrender, faith in him, that he does everything good for me, even though at the loss of my husband, that was the hardest, but I had to accept it. Yeah.
Thank you, Annapurna ji. And Annapurna ji is one of our most enthusiastic participants. Quiz is her favorite part of it. And even when she was in hospital, she was participating in the quiz. So kudos for that, Annapurna ji. And the way you're looking at it, see, typically what happens with people in later part of their life is when they lose their life partners, they lose the zest in life as well. It's like, what's the purpose? And typically, statistically, it is say that they also depart. But the way you're looking at it is the right way of approaching it. And I think you're able to pull out the knowledge that is needed to face adversities and even these kind of things in the right spirit. So really very, very inspiring, and keep inspiring all of us as well. So with that, we come to the end of a very fascinating session. It's a very interesting discussion that we are on. We'll continue with that tomorrow. So thank you so much for, giving your precious time and participating so enthusiastically in these discussions. And yeah, it's a pretty intriguing, fascinating journey that we are on, and I feel blessed every day, and I'm sure a lot of you would feel the same way as well. If not, then please start doing so, because what we are on is something special for sure. So thank you again. Radhe Radhe.
Question in
Nice
the
to-
chat window, Nitinji. Should I take it tomorrow?
Sure, we can take maybe one or two quickly.
Okay.
if something.
The question is that if Draupadi would have called for Lord Krishna right when she was in trouble, would Lord Krishna help her or waited till she tried her own?
No, see, God's principle is ye yatha mam prapadyante tas tathaiva bhajamyaham. So he has to reciprocate immediately. He's not having fun or something like that, right? It's his rule. So the moment you surrender, he has to come. There's no choice. You don't leave any choice to God at that point, right? So these are God's principles. So the moment you surrender, he has to intervene. And that is why it said when you surrender, there's not even a fraction's delay in your realization. He has to grace immediately, right? Otherwise, he will have to violate his own divine law. So that's how it's meant to be. But yeah, nevertheless, we'll continue more of our discussion. Please put it in feedback tracker, especially if you have some more questions. So, but we'll continue this discussion. So thank you from my side. Radhe Radhe. Have a good night and good day, rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Nitinji. Radhe Radhe.
Thank you, everyone. Radhe Radhe.